Thank you, Mr. Felcher. Thank you guys for coming and letting me tell you a little bit about an experience I've had in letting go. So in the 1950s, there were two cardiologists, Friedman and Rosenman, who started to notice a correlation in their patients between behavioral patterns and heart disease. They noticed that people who were stressed out, competitive, achievement-oriented, driven, a little bit impatient, tended to have a higher incidence of heart disease than the people who were a little more laid back and easygoing. They called these two types of patients type A and type B. Over time, this science was debunked, but these two personality types persisted, and we still tend to put ourselves into these two personality types of type A and type B. I fall pretty squarely into the type A category. On the Myers-Briggs personality scale, I am an INTJ, introverted, intuitive, thinking, judging, also called the architect. My leadership style is the driver. These are not professional diagnoses, and these are not prescriptions for how to live my life. And some of these traits are actually pretty good, but some of them tend to make me really stressed out and a little bit unpleasant to be around. So I've discovered that I need to figure out some way to let go of some of these things that aren't serving me. So in my quest for trying to let go, I keep coming back to this memory of one of the first dates I had with the man who's now my husband. He has a tandem bicycle, and he'd made an arrangement for us to go on a bike ride around the valley, someplace I'd never been. And I was so excited about it that the night before I even had this dream. They were riding down the hill, and I was in the front, and I was driving, and we're going down this grassy knoll and like swerving around tree stumps and everything, and it was wonderful. And I had so much fun. And when we met up for the date the next day, I told him about the dream, and he said, "You bet that was a dream." And then he told me how it was really going to be. On a tandem, the stronger person has to ride in front. The better rider has to ride in front. The taller person goes in front. And if that weren't enough to convince me that my place was in the back, how about the owner of the bicycle goes in front? So, so here I am gearing up for being not in the driver's seat, being in the back seat, and I learn even more rules. The captain gets on first, then I get on, I put my feet in the pedals, and they have to stay there the whole time, even when we're stopped. I have to hold on to the handlebars, but they don't actually steer. There aren't any brakes on them, so I'm just in the back pedaling, and when he says turbo, I have to pedal really, really fast so that we can get going. When he turns, I have to lean into it. And this is what is called in bicycle parlance being the stoker, because all I'm doing is feeding the fire by pedaling. So me, typical driver, needs to win, needs to be best at everything, needs to be in control, having absolutely no control in the backseat of this tandem. And to make my anxiety even worse, I can't see over him. He's 6'4" and I'm, 5'3". So I can't do my typical thing of looking, 5 blocks ahead, planning 3 steps ahead to make sure that I can keep myself safe on this bicycle, because all I can see is the back of his shoulders. So after a few, white knuckle blocks of me, kind of trying to pump these brakes that don't actually exist for me, I realized I was not having any fun. It was nothing like that dream I'd had. So I had to recalibrate my mindset. I had to kind of start over a little bit. And it's a cliche, but I had to take a deep breath and kind of start over. So I did something I wouldn't normally do on a bicycle. I looked to the side for a long time, looked to the other side, decided I'd see what was behind me, so I turned around to see what's behind me. Not something I would normally do. And what I saw were these beautiful homes. It was a part of the valley I'd never been to. Huge, gorgeous sycamore trees casting their shade on the sidewalks. There were families out with their children, walking their dogs. They waved to us. One of them even said, "Oh, that looks like so much fun." And I said, "Oh, you know what, I think it is." And at one point, we went by this house where there was a family in front with a pug, and the pug started barking and chasing us. And, this isn't the actual pug, but you can imagine what these guys look like when they run, and then when they bark, they're even more ridiculous. So we're riding through this neighborhood, and I keep thinking he's going to give up sooner or later, and here I am turning around and watching this pug run after us, barking the whole time. And after several blocks, we're not even within view of his house anymore, and he's still there, and we realize we have to take this guy back. So he's still chasing us, still barking, and we make this huge U-turn that takes up the whole street, and now I can see him on this side of us, still barking, still trying to get us, and we just ride back and bring him back to his owners, still barking. And then they grab him, and they put him back on the leash, and they say thank you, and we go on our way. And it's one of those moments that my husband and I still look back on as one of our favorite dates, favorite times. And it was when I finally was able to actually have fun being in the back seat. You know, not being able to see the road in front of me, not being able to use my brakes, only being able to pedal gave me the opportunity to do something that I wasn't prepared to do and that I wouldn't normally do. And I saw things I would never see any other time. So I'm never going to be a type B person, but I can sort of vacation in the land of being type B by putting myself in the proverbial back seat a little bit more often. There's something really beautiful about being able to relinquish that responsibility and that control. And those of you who, like me, are very type A, I recommend that you do this. You know, you might not always have the luxury of a tandem bicycle on hand, like I do, but you know, find a way to put yourself in some sort of figurative back seat. You know, you might see something really surprising. So it's now one of my favorite activities, and this is actually, wanted to end with a picture of us winning, I think, the marathon crash race a few years ago on our tandem. So thank you guys so much for listening.